That is correct. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for attending the session.
Okay, I've made you a co-host and you should be able to share your screen.
Thank you very much. Bear with me, please. Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, good morning. Please interrupt me at any time of my presentation. For me, it's more important to hear other voices than my own. But so the focus of our meeting is going to be how to cultivate NACE competencies. And if we think about the main two reasons why kids drop out of college is, first of all, obviously financial, right? Lack of funds. And the second reason is, why am I here? Why am I taking this class? Why do I have to take philosophy or English literature or and there is a relatively new initiative at CUNY to try to connect with faculty to get on board with helping our students be career ready. And many of us, we tend to focus on the intrinsic value, right, of the excellent education that we give to our students. But this, invites us to think also about, right, the instrumental value, right, of the education that we're giving our students, because, eventually they're coming to college to follow careers, right, and career paths. The National Association of College and Employers have these 8 competencies, right? That these are skills, abilities that help students to be career ready. And we're going to look at what these are. And then for the rest of our meeting, we're going to focus on one of my favorites, critical thinking. Okay. And we're going to do an exercise on critical thinking. Okay. So these are the 8 competencies: career and self-development, communication, critical thinking, equity and inclusion, leadership, professionalism, teamwork, and technology. There are many things that we can do to help our students be career ready. Some are very, very simple. For example, one very, very simple thing is to encourage them to set up a LinkedIn account. It's free for our students, right? So that our students can put up their resumes, they can network, they can make themselves visible to potential internships and employers. So what is career and self-development? Is to proactively develop oneself as one's career, through continual personal and professional learning, right? Awareness of your strengths, your weaknesses, navigating career opportunities, and building networks, right? And here are some sample behaviors. I'm not going to read them all, but Kathleen, if I may ask you to read a couple of them, do you mind helping us with this?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to read the sample behaviors you
Yeah,
said?
a few of them. Yeah, those that,
Okay.
catch your eye.
Oh, okay, the ones that stand out to me, let's say, I would say definitely the first one, show an awareness of own strengths and areas for development. Yeah, identify areas for continual growth while pursuing and applying feedback. Let me just take a quick scan down the list here. Yeah, voluntarily participate in further education training or other events to support one's careers. I'm picking up on the things that are mostly tied to things that students are doing in class. That's what I look for. So how's that for those three?
Excellent, right? And that is very important. I mean, probably one, in the background of your minds are, Enrique, we already do this, right? We are all doing this. This is our job. But I think that it's very important to make it explicit, right, to students. Again, right, giving them good reasons of why we are doing this, right, and the benefits beyond just, right, our particular fascinating classes, right. Thank you very much, Kathleen. So another one of these skills is communication, right? So clearly and effectively exchange information, ideas, facts, and perspectives, right? And Nisa, may I ask you to read some of these, please, the ones that catch your eye. And incidentally, I'm gonna put all of this as we usually do with Faculty Development Day, where I'm going to put this all in a PDF file, my slides and so on, and you will be able to access them in the near future.
Okay, so the ones that stand out for me are employ active listening, persuasion, and influencing skills. Communicate in a clear and organized manner so that others can effectively understand. And yeah, and ask appropriate questions for specific information from supervisors, specialists, and others. But I guess the most important one for me is to listen and to be able to communicate clearly. I mean, that's something I always emphasize in my courses.
Right. And being an active listener is right. We're not born, right? Being active is something that is a skill, right, that one must develop, right?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So critical thinking, and again, we're gonna look at this in more detail, just because it happens to be one of my favorites. So this is identifying and responding to needs-based upon an understanding of situation, context, and logical analysis of relevant information. So one of the things that we do very well, right, at the universities in this country is we rightly teach numeracy, we rightly teach literacy, right? We teach our students how to read, how to write, right, how to count. But few programs teach students how to think, right? And thought, we know, has a structure, right? And if you can hack into the structure of thought, then it's going to help you, right, not only to develop as a critical thinker, but also it's going to help you succeed in any class, right, that you take. And it's also going to help you to develop, right, these skills that will, will make you career ready and will help you, right, to be successful in your career, right? Some of the sample behaviors, right, is to be a problem solver, right? Some of our students don't think of themselves as thinkers, right? And to encourage and to help them develop, right, as thinkers is a lifelong, right, skill that is going to benefit them in our classes, beyond college, right, in their careers, and even in their personal life. How to gather and analyze information, right? How to effectively communicate, right? Reasons, right? And actions, recognizing diverse perspectives, right? Being able to see a problem from very different perspectives and points of view, right? And what we're gonna do in the second part of our workshop is we're gonna look at one of the most common inductive logic arguments that we all use, and we all use them all the time. And 90% of the times that people use them, they're using them wrongly. They're making crimes, committing crimes against logic. So more about logic, critical thinking in a minute. So leadership, right? Another skill, right? Recognize and capitalize on personal and team strengths to achieve organizational goals. And I wonder if I can ask Naomi, please, to read some of the sample behaviors that catch your eye.
Sure. Just give me a second to read them. I'd say the first one: inspire, persuade, and motivate self and others under a shared vision. Use innovative thinking to go beyond traditional methods. Serve as a role model to others by approaching tasks with confidence and positive attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Plan, initiate, manage, complete, and evaluate projects. I think the last one in particular, when a student is interviewing for a job in a behavior-based interview, they have to give very concrete, specific examples that show their problem, action, and result. So knowing something specific, like how to evaluate a project that you've worked on, either in the classroom or in an internship, is important.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly, right? And again, right, if you think about it, some of our students do, but not all of our students see themselves as leaders, right? And we all know how we can get a lot of mileage from a little bit of encouragement, but more importantly, giving them reasons why it would be a good idea to develop these skills that takes time, takes taking risks, right? Getting out of one's comfort zone, but also it takes a lot of hard work, right? Thank you very much, Naomi. Professionalism, right? Knowing work environments differ greatly, understand and demonstrate effectively work habits, and act in the interest of the large community and work, right? I think that, we encounter this in our classes, right, with Gen Z, is that in social media, things are pretty informal, right? And one of the reasons why one goes to university or college is, right, to develop into, right, to develop professionally, right, into a consummate professional. Somebody just joined our group. Welcome, Mohammed. Mohammed, can I ask you to read a few sample behaviors, please, that catch your eye on professionalism?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Muhammad Islam. Okay. So which one you want me to read? The
From the
professionalism?
sample behaviors list, if you can choose 2 or 3 that caught your attention.
Simple behaviors. Okay. The number 3 is like be present and prepared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
Any others?
Just okay. Okay. Demonstrate dependability.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I just joined. I don't know. Like, you want me to?
That's fine. I'm just looking for for a couple of sample behaviors that catch people eye. That's perfect, Mohammed. Thank you very much.
All right.
And
Thank you.
and how it is said that I mean I'm with you when you focus on the third and fourth, right? Because they say, right, 80% of life is just showing up, right?
Mhm.
And I guess that the other 20% is showing up prepared, right? Uh, um, uh, okay, thank you very much, Mohammed. Seriously, now teamwork, right?
Mhm.
Which is how it can be difficult in the classroom, right? To get students out of their shell, out of their comfort zone, and actually, right, really interact, not just like interact like this, but really interact with other fellow students. So this is about building and maintaining collaborative relationships to work effectively towards common goals, right? And appreciating diverse viewpoints and also shared responsibilities, right? Bruce, can I ask you please to read a few sample behaviors that
Sure.
catch your eye? Thank you, Bruce.
The first one, listen carefully to others, taking time to understand and ask appropriate questions without interrupting. Um,
Mm.
Further down, exercise the ability to compromise and be agile. And then the last one, build strong, positive working relationships with supervisor and team members, coworkers.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay. Technology, right? Yeah. This is right. This is right, the challenge of our era, I think, right? Technology is ever evolving, and if we want to help our students be career ready, right, they need to understand, right, how to use technology, how to harness technology, right, to be more efficient, to complete tasks, right, and to accomplish goals, right. Some some of these sample behaviors are navigating, right, the changes, and being open to learning new technologies. I mean, think about us, right? We have been plunged into Brightspace, right, as a new teaching platform, and we were very comfortable with Blackboard, right, at this point, and now we have to, right, navigate this new platform, right? Using technology to improve efficiency and productivity, identifying appropriate technology, right, for completing specific tasks, right, and harnessing information, right, manipulating it, constructing ideas, and using technology to achieve strategic goals. Okay, so again, right, you're gonna say, well, listen, this is what we do, right? This is our bread and butter, right? But here's one, right, one way in which we can, in with greater depth, right, look into how to develop, right, these competencies, and which ones are already strengths of ours in the classroom, right? You know, our superpowers, but also which ones you know, we have room to improve. So I want to take a couple of minutes, a few minutes, and ask you the following two questions. And if you can share with us one career readiness competency that you are already implementing in your classes, right? To help our students be career ready. And the second one is a career readiness competency that you hope to explore and integrate into your curriculum in the future. Again, right, to help your students be career ready. So we'll take a minute or two, and if you would like to share answers to these questions, I would greatly appreciate it.
Enrique, would you mind, could you go back to the slide that lists the competencies?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And please let me know if anyone is ready to share their answers to the two questions posed. Thank you.
I can share mine. Can you
Thank you.
go
Thank
back to
you.
the questions?
Absolutely.
So just full disclosure, I actually teach a career development class.
Say
And
that again. Sorry, I missed what you said.
I teach career development class. And I've been a career development professional for over 20 years. So I'd say in my course, I do all of the above, and in particular, the career development piece. So the class I teach educates students on the theorists as well as how to learn to do their own resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile, interviewing. So everything from soup to nuts. So that's one career. So really all of them are incorporated into my curriculum. The one that I feel like I need to explore more is the, if you go back to the definition ones, it was the equity and inclusion, both for themselves and working with the client. So I work in the psychology department and I manage the current externship program, and students in my course are getting their master's in forensic psychology and forensic mental health counseling. So really supporting them in how they would use career development and these different techniques in supporting the diverse clients they work with. So whether it be individuals who've been incarcerated or involved in the criminal justice system and aren't in jail but are trying to get a job, and maybe are taken away from an interview because they have to go see their parole officer, or individuals who are victims, and how does that impact their career development? And even being on the job, if the person that's their perpetrator shows up at their office, what does that mean for everybody they work with? So those are the things that I need to incorporate more, and I have guest speakers who come to talk about that. But I'd say just overall, all of them are present in the teaching that I do.
That's impressive. And I mean, one of the things that must be stressed is the fact, I mean, the college, right, and a lot of faculty like Naomi are already doing extremely impressive efforts and very practical, very useful efforts in helping our students to become career ready. But the idea is, how can we integrate all those efforts into, right, say, for example, curricular development, right? So our students get these benefits not only from taking Naomi's class, right, on career readiness, but from taking all of our classes.
Yeah.
That's impressive. So what class do you teach? What class is that?
It's career development.
That's what it's called?
Though there's a more
Don't worry.
I can look at my email. They just recently gave a name to it because it was it's a new course.
Okay. And it's a psychology course, or?
It's in with psychology. So it's why is it in here? Is it a required class?
It's not required for the FMHC program, but other states require it for their license.
And so it's a grad class.
It is a grad class, yes. And what we noticed that happened during COVID is, since students did the program 100% remote, they never stepped foot in John Jay, never came to New York, wanted to get licensed in their state. And this is one of the courses that they were deficient in. So it's career development theories and practice is what the course is called.
Cool.
And right now it's open to master's students in psychology. Yeah.
That's
so it's an elective.
That's impressive. Thank you. Anyone else? Your mentioning of equity and inclusion, I mean, that for me is really a toughie, I just is the kind, I mean, some of this, right, some of these skills, right, it's some of them are much easier to implement than others, right? And I mean, just talking about the importance of equality, what grounds equality, and so on. I'm pretty good at talking at the very high level of abstractions, right? In say in ethics, right? When we talk about why we're all equal. But then incorporating it right into practical, right, exercises and coming up with reasons for students of why this is not only, again, right, our moral obligation and intrinsically valuable, but how you need, right, this skill, right, to have a successful career.
Enrique,
Yes.
I talk about this very directly in my classes. I tell them, we talk about loving and respecting diversity, but what does that really mean, practically speaking? And then I start going through examples. And so in my classes, we talk about Rosh Hashanah, we talk about the Chinese New Year, and I will quiz them on, what's the year. This year is the year of what? The dragon, and so or what does Yom Kippur mean, and what does it mean to sit Shiva? And so all kinds of subjects like this. And I tell them, you have to be knowledgeable because this is a diverse city, and you'll have to understand what people are talking about when they talk about the Jewish holidays. And then we talk about Easter and Lent and Shrove Tuesday, and it's so I'm very practical when it comes to talking about equity and inclusion and diversity. I just give them real examples, and I tell them the importance of being knowledgeable about these topics so that we can relate better to other people, understand what they're talking about, and understand how to help them, because our students want to go out there and be fierce advocates for justice, but they have to understand what the population is and who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Nilsa. Okay, so now I want to talk in more detail now about critical thinking, right? And we all do this, right? However, oops, sorry, I made a move. We all do this, but in philosophy we have a pretty detailed, right, and pretty technical, right, idea about what critical thinking is, right? And I think that most philosophers agree that critical thinking has at least, three features, right? It is done for the purpose of making up one's mind, right, about what to believe or to do. So thought and action, right? The person engaging in the thinking is trying to fulfill standards of adequacy, right, and accuracy, appropriate, right, to the thinking. And so this is where we communicate to our students that, listen, right, just like your essay needs to have a structure, thought, right, has a structure, and we can have good structure in thought or bad structure. We can have a clear thinking, or we can have muddled thinking, right? We can put forward valid arguments, or we can do crimes against logic, right? And the thinking fulfills the relevant standards, right, to some threshold level. Okay. So here's Plato on the argument of analogy. So again, the argument from analogy is the most widely inductive reasoning argument, most widely used. We all use it. We use it all the time. And again, in my in my research, I find that 80% of the time people get it wrong. And this is the New York Times, the Guardian, the Atlantic, the New Yorker. So I think, I find this a key component in all of my classes, right? That if if my students can have ability and facility in the correct use of the argument from analogy, it's going to serve them well in my class, all your classes, and then to have a successful career. So here's what Plato said about the argument from analogy. Arguments that make their point by means of similarities are impostors, and unless you are on your guard against them, will quite readily deceive you. And here's Freud. Analogies decide nothing that is true, but they can make one feel more at home. So arguments from analogy declare that because two items are similar in one respect, I'm looking for another pen here, right? That they are similar in another respect, right? And as Freud reminds us, they can make us feel at home, right? And for that reason, they are especially persuasive. So let's look at some correct forms of the arguments from analogy. We won't be able to talk about, relevant similarities and irrelevant dissimilarities, but this is an exercise that takes about 20 minutes to do in class. You can choose any argument that you fancy, right? Your favorite argument from Jung or Freud, or from your favorite historian or criminologist, or so here's an example. Kathleen, do you mind reading this example for us?
Sorry, yeah. During World War I, the Socialist Party distributed leaflets to recent draftees, urging them to oppose the draft. The draft, they contended, violated the constitutional amendment against involuntary servitude. Oliver Wendell Holmes, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, argued that they did not have the right to circulate the leaflets during wartime. The right to free speech, he asserted, would not protect a man in falsely shouting fire in a theater and causing a panic. Since in both cases the words used created a clear and present danger, he concluded, the right to free speech did not protect the socialists in expressing ideas that might harm the war effort.
Okay. So you see how the argument works, right? It begins with something familiar, right? Of course, we don't have the right to falsely shout fire in the theater, and then invites us to conclude the same about something less familiar, right? Under certain circumstances, we don't even have the right to explain to others our interpretation of the US Constitution, right? Arguments from analogy are almost always enticing because, again, by their very nature, they use two well-known quick and dirty shortcuts in reasoning, right? By beginning with the familiar, they exploit our dependence on the vividness shortcut, right? And by presenting similarities between the familiar and the unfamiliar, they take advantage of our dependence on the similarity shortcut, right? So they are custom made for the way our minds naturally operate. This makes us especially susceptible to them and heightens the importance of being able to evaluate them effectively. Now, we also, I won't get into much detail about this, but sometimes analogies are not arguments, right? They're just used for rhetorical purposes, right? Nilsa, do you mind reading this Azel Moore example?
Analogies are often used merely for rhetorical effect. Azel Moore of the Philadelphia Inquirer, for example, writes, writing editorials is a lot like wearing a navy blue suit and standing in a rainstorm on a cold day and wetting your pants. It may give you a warm feeling for a minute, but no one else is going to notice.
Okay. So obviously, right, this is not an argument because he's not trying to establish a conclusion, right? Yeah. So we shouldn't jump to the conclusion that any analogy introduces, or that all analogies introduces an argument, unless there's really, right, at least implicitly, an argument, right, a premise and a conclusion. So we can set the argument from analogy, for example, right, in the preceding free speech argument, in more formal fashion, right? So we read this premise one, A is F and G, premise two, B is F, right? And then the conclusion, therefore, B is G, right? And A and B are names of the things, right, or classes of things that are said to be analogous. And we call A the basic analog, right, is the one that we are presumed to be more familiar with, right? In this free speech argument, it is falsely shouting fire in a theater. B is called the inferred analog, right? And is the thing in question, the one that the argument draws a conclusion about. In the free speech argument, it is expressing ideas that might harm the war effort. Any questions or comments? So A and B, again, are things, right? Yeah. And then F and G are predicates of these things, right? F and G are properties or characteristics, right? Letters that stand for properties or characteristics. So F is the basic similarity, right? The property that the two analogs share, presumably without controversy. In the free speech argument, the basic similarity is that they create a clear and present danger. And G is the inferred similarity, the property that the inferred analog is purported to have on the grounds that the basic analog has it. Is not protected by the right to free speech, right? Is the inferred similarity in the free speech argument. Okay. So here's one way to clarify the argument, right? Premise one, yeah. Nilsa, do you mind reading this for us?
You know, I teach this case, so this is fun for me.
Perfect. Thank you.
Here is one good way to clarify the argument. 1, falsely shouting fire in a theater creates a clear and present danger and is not protected by the right to free speech.
Okay.
Expressing ideas that might harm the war effort creates a clear and present danger.
Therefore, right?
Therefore, C, expressing ideas that might harm the war effort is not protected by the right to free speech.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay. There are variations, right, of this common model, right? So sometimes we can deal with a basic or inferred analog that includes more than one item, right? Okay. Here's an example, right? Naomi, do you mind reading us this example of manatees?
Sure, manatees must be, do you want me to read the first variations also, or just the manatees?
Just the manatees, please.
Manatees must be mammals, since whales and dolphins, like manatees, are sea creatures that give live birth, and whales and dolphins are definitely mammals. In this case, the basic analog, the content of A, is whales and dolphins.
Is that clear? And then sometimes, right, the basic similarity or the inferred similarity may include more than one property, right? More than one characteristic, as in the following example. Mohammed, do you mind reading us this manatees example?
Yes, sure. Okay, manatees must be mammals, since owls, like manatees, are sea creatures that give life, birth, and that nourish their young on the mother's milk, and owl are definitely mammals.
Whales, right? Yeah, perfect.
Whales, yeah.
Perfect.
Whales, yeah.
Sorry, continue. Thank you.
No. Continue.
Yes, please.
In this example, the basic similarity, the content of F is sea creatures that give life, birth, and nourish their young on the mother's milk. A is
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
So this is the same, right, formal fashion of the argument, right? Except here, right, there's more than one property, right? For objects A and B, right? So F can stand for not just one characteristic or property, but multiple, right? Okay. So here's a question to Bruce. Bruce, since we started late, and also the group, we started late, are we supposed to finish in 2 minutes?
No, I just checked with the TLC folks and said, you have the option to go a bit over.
Okay. If you don't mind, we might go a bit over, but I understand that people are busy and have other things to do. So if you sign out at 10, no worries. Is that okay?
Yeah, I just wanted to warn you that I do have to leave because I have to go to campus for another session.
Yes.
So I'm going to try to stay for a few more minutes, but I want to thank you now in case I have to rush off quickly. It's a very interesting session.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, and good luck with all your efforts, and enjoy the rest of the faculty development.
Thank you.
So how do we clarify arguments from analogy? It's pretty straightforward, right? Once you understand the hack, right? It is easiest to begin identifying the analogs, right? A and B, the two items that the arguer is comparing, and then insert the one that is not in question, the familiar one, into the A position as the basic analog, and then the one that is in question into the B position as the inferred analog, right? And then you insert the basic similarity, the property the two analogs uncontroversially share into both premises as F, right? And finally, you insert the infer similarity, right, into the first principle and into the first premise, and the conclusion, right, as G, right? Okay. So, okay, now sometimes arguments from analogy are enthymemes. I'm not going to go through an example like that, but sometimes the premises are implicit. They're not explicit, right? Okay. So, here's the guideline again, right? Structure arguments from analogy when it would be loyal to do so by identifying the four things, right? The basic and infer analogs and the basic and infer similarities, then inserting each into its proper place in the form, right? And just remember that sometimes and often, right, the second premise, which declares the basic similarity, is often implicit. Okay. So, Naomi, do you mind reading this sample exercise, and then can we all have a crack at it? Put it in formal fashion and evaluate it as an argument from analogy. Go ahead, Naomi.
Sure. Expressions of shock and sadness come from other coaches and administrators following the announcement by Tulane President Iman Kelly that the school planned to drop its basketball program in the wake of the alleged gambling scheme and newly discovered NCAA violations. Sorry, my
Don't worry.
boss just told me what time it was. Coach Jim Killingsworth of TCU said, I think they should deal with the problem, not do away with it. If they had something like that happen in the English department, would they do away with that? I feel like they should have tried to solve their problems.
So, can we do an analysis of this by filling in those blanks, right? The basic analog, the inferred analog, the basic similarity, and the inferred similarity. So my question to you, what are the two things that are being compared here, right? In Naomi's, the example that Naomi read.
Well, the basketball program in English
Right?
classes.
Right? And which is the more familiar in academia as being recognized as an academic program, right?
English, obviously.
English, right? So we're going to plug in that into A, right? And the basketball program is going to be our B, right? Yeah. Now, what are the two characteristics that the English department or program, familiarly has? In other words, we're trying to identify our F and our G, right? And F is the more familiar, right, characteristic that English has. Right? So we have identified our basic analog, right, and our basic similarity, right? Sorry, our basic analog and our inferred analog. Now we're looking for the basic similarity and the inferred similarity. And remember, right, sometimes these, right, premises are implicit, right, not explicit. Okay. So here you go, right? This is, as Naomi very rightly analyzed this, the basic analog is English department. The inferred one is basketball program, right? The basic similarity is that they both are college programs, right? Yeah. But it's implicit, right? And then the inferred similarity is that you shouldn't eliminate them if they experience problems, right?
And Enrique, I also felt that the basic similarity is that they're both important.
Sure, right?
And we
Sure.
want to save them. We don't want to
Right.
to lose them.
Yeah, right. So I think that, I mean, you can say that, right, implicitly, then we're talking, right, about our F having several characteristics, which is an important college program, right? Yeah. But I think that's being implicit, right? That if it's a college program, it should be important, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be a college program, right? But exactly, excellent, excellent. So here's the formal fashion, right, of the argument, right? Premise one, the English department is a college program and should not be eliminated if it experiences problems. And then our second premise was implicit, right? The basketball program is a college program, right? And so therefore, the basketball program should not be eliminated if it experiences problems. Now, if we had more time, and we have run out of time, but there are techniques on how to evaluate, right? How to use this rightly. and what are some of the crimes against logic that can come up when we're using similarities. Thank you very much for your attention. And it's been an absolute pleasure seeing you online, meeting you online. And thank you very much for attending.
Thank you, Enrique. It
you.
was wonderful. Thank you.
It was
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Again, this all will be posted in the Teaching and Learning Center website, and all my slides will be there and more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce?